Hello once again everybody at Vintage Iron Range Dirt Track Racing. I am in Grand Rapids today at the race stables of Carlson Motorsports, and today we are going to talk with Ted Carlson. Ted, it's great to see you.
Great, yes, glad to come here.
I thank you for taking the time out and sit down and do this interview with us. Ted, one thing about you a lot of people might not realize is you were born in Hibbing.
Yes, I was.
And then you ended up moving Keewatin, right?
Yep, that's where I graduated out of Keewatin.
Okay.
But most of my friends, even through the years, were people from Hibbing, Minnesota.
Okay, and then you raced at Hibbing in your early part of your career, but you were actually living in Ely then at the
That's
time.
right.
Okay.
We,
And then eventually you made your way to Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids, 1968, we moved to Grand Rapids.
And you've been here ever since, with your muffler shop.
Yeah.
Okay. What got you interested in racing?
Well, when I was in high school, my mom and dad would always go to the Hibbing Raceway, and ended up I would go with them for the years and watch them, and I got to be, my hero was Donnie Coivisto out of Keewatin, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And I would at the time be able to go up in the summer, and I'd go at night and watch Donnie work on his car, learn things about it, and I just became a racing fan of Donnie Coivisto. And one of the gals I knew from high school was a Ruben Olson fan out of Hibbing, Minnesota, and we kind of give each other a little back and forth deal of her being for him and me going for that. And I think that was my start of racing, was the fan of Donnie Coivisto.
Okay, and you got turned on to him because his car was down at the local gas station?
Yes, it was right down.
So it was visible, it was in your mind? And
yep, and I could go down at night and I could sit with them and talk to them and
sneak down there, look at their
cars and all the stuff that went on at night in the garage.
Okay. So who were some of the racers that you looked up to back then as a youth?
Oh, Donnie Oz, and I guess Ruben Olson was, he was a top runner.
Mm-hmm.
And
obviously Coivisto, but he was your number one guy.
Yeah, and Ruben Olson was a fantastic driver, a good driver.
Okay.
And they were just fans from drivers from all over that you just learned to learn and watch. But
so then eventually just watching wasn't enough. When and why did you just decide to take the wheel?
Well, when I got married, we moved to Ely, Minnesota, and we were there for a while, and I still loved and thought about cars, and a friend of mine, we got together, and Junkyard gave me a car, and we ended up doing stuff that's unreal from years now. My roll cage was made out of drive shafts, and belts were coming from the mining company for us, and
the seat belts.
Seat belts and stuff. And it just got into it, and
so you scrounged for whatever it took, because you had the drive to get out on the racetrack.
All that stuff, and I ended up with a sponsor that helped me out.
What year was that about then that you started
about
racing?
1964, 65.
Okay, so what was your first car?
It was a 1950 Ford Flathead.
What division did that race in?
That at that time was called hobby stocks.
Like a six-cylinder hobby stock?
Yeah, you could either run six-cylinder or
the flathead.
Yeah,
okay.
The flathead V8s, no overhead valves.
Okay. What all different types of cars did you race?
Ford and Chevrolet was most of all the ones I've ever raced.
Okay. Which ones did you like better?
The Chevrolet, because it was newer when I started racing. That the Chevelle that I had.
What all classes did you race?
Actually started with the hobby stocks and then went into the six-cylinder, and I ran that for six-cylinders. Was one of the top classes for years. In fact, all the drivers that we have now around that raced, a lot of our top drivers were all six-cylinder class people.
So you were a six-cylinder guy then your whole career.
Yep.
How many years roughly did you race?
About 20-some.
Okay.
I can't give you the exact one because you just don't remember all the years.
What was your number when you raced?
Number 7.
And was that your number your whole career?
All my life was number 7.
How did you come across that number?
Well, I guess I give you the story. I was born on February 7th. Me and my wife were married on the 7th My wife's birthday, her birthday is July, and that's the 7th month. My first daughter was on the 7th month, on July. So I just thought it had to be number 7. It had to be our number.
So the number 7 seems to come up a lot in your life.
All life in my family is number 7.
So why not have it your race car
Yeah.
number? Okay. What tracks did you race at when you were racing?
I first started was all Hibbing, Minnesota, and then I ended up that it started coming to Grand Rapids, and we raced Grand Rapids and Hibbing while I was at Ely, and we moved into Grand Rapids, got things going, and then I ended up running Bemidji, Grand Rapids, and Hibbing. It was my tracks,
Okay.
2 days a week.
Were you like a 1 day a week guy or like 3 day a week? I
No,
were
we
you
run 3 weeks.
So
We'd run 3 nights.
you were pretty hardcore then?
Yeah.
Okay. Who were some of your biggest competitors that you had to race against?
Oh, when I first started, I mean, Lawrence Sauter was fantastic driver. Lenny Vistelli from way back. Donnie Oz was a competitor. Almost Tommy Carpenter at Grand Rapids. He was probably a very, very. The Broking, the Miss John Broking Sr.
Okay.
was a heck of a driver, and his brother was a great driver. Truthfully, there was so many good drivers that to try to remember them, I could probably come up with 1,000 names
Okay.
to you.
What's the story with Lawrence Sauter? I hear that you used to be able to beat him quite readily, and then something happened, and all of a sudden you couldn't beat him.
Yeah, we were good friends, and he had a 50. He had a Ford, a Chevrolet 6-cylinder, or Ford. I can't remember what it was, but anywhere, he didn't know how to do anything on the carburetor, and so I told him, you got the wrong carburetor. You ought to be doing this, put this carburetor on it, which was one of the dumbest things I did because after that,
You couldn't touch him.
I couldn't touch him because him and the only time I ever beat him is that Lawrence Sauter and Lenny Vistelli would be battling, and I'd be sitting in 3rd place, and they'd be hitting each other going down the backstretch and trying to spin each other out.
So you could sneak by him then.
And then I could sneak by him on the top. I couldn't beat him on the
So,
stretch. 'cause
so
they
your
were fast.
your downfall was being too nice of a guy, handing out too much information.
And Lawrence Sauter still is a deep friend of mine to this day.
Okay. All right. Well, this concludes part 1 of our interview with Ted Carlson from Grand Rapids. Please stay tuned to part 2.